So one of the things I did back in high school was be a very mediocre team debater. I mean, I do have a second place regional trophy. Oh, it might be a first place one actually. I have a first place regional trophy. Anyway, this is the point. The point is we won that because the better teams had gone to nationals. Don't care. But anyway, the thing about debate, team debate particularly, is that you'll get a prompt, and it's the prompt for the year, and then you prepare for your debates, for your prompt for both sides, either affirmative or negative. So part of that preparation process is going through and finding evidence. You can't just make assertions without evidence in the structure of a team debate. So part of that process is analyzing evidence critically. Like, where is it coming from? Is this credible? Can this be proven or established by ancillary evidence? So one thing that I've talked about on this channel in a lot of videos is how important our internal paradigms are, our belief systems, our framework of how we conceptualize the world. And the reason why is because that it impacts what we pay attention to, what evidence we let in. It impacts how we analyze, what we're looking at, and then the conclusions we draw, which is usually self-reinforcing to the paradigm. It's very, it's hard to shift a belief system, truly. So when things aren't working out, either in our lives or politically, usually that means there's a mismatch of a belief structure that a person or group is using and reality. So we all, in order to interact in the world, we have we have an inner model. We have an inner model of reality. We have an inner model of other people. We have an inner model of how things work. And when our inner model, is accurate, or more accurate than not, we're able to make effective predictions about how people will behave, about how systems will operate, about what will happen in the world. One really interesting thing that I have noticed is that people who have personality disorders or problematic childhoods, like abuse, often have a very static inner model of the world and people. And if you think about it, that's kind of part of the abuse process. You are having an experience, and this outside, either person or group or something, is saying, no, this isn't correct. You're not having this experience. You're wrong in some way. And so you sit there and you're like, well, no, and it's very confusing because your model of what's happening and what you're being told or shown is very different. Sometimes it's that, let's say you're a victim of an abusive parent, and your model of what a parent is an unconditionally loving person who nurtures and caretakes for you as a caregiver. And so you have that expectation with this person, mother or father, both, and yet they're not doing that. They might be abusive, they might be neglectful, they might, whatever the situation is. And so there's this like inner turmoil because you can't accurately, you keep expecting them, or we keep expecting them to do something, and then they don't do it, and it's horribly destabilizing. And the reason why it's horribly destabilizing is because it's showing again and again and again that our model of who our parent is not correct. It happens in romantic relationships. Both victims and abusers will have a static model of who that other person is. So the victim might have a static model of the other person as someone who is, the love of their life and who loves them and is a good person. And then the perpetrator keeps doing stuff that a good person wouldn't do. But no software updates. We're not updating the inner model. So it's so destabilizing and confusing when they continue to do this. And the victim's constantly surprised, like, oh my gosh, how could they do this? Well, you know, they can do it because the model of who that perpetrator is not correct. The perpetrator might have a model of who the victim is or should be. This actually shows up quite a bit. I want to say it's Patricia Evans. She talks about the teddy bear idea, teddy bear effect, which is basically like that an abuser or, you know, narcissist or personality disorder person will put you in a role and they get very upset if you step out of that role. So they have a model of not really who you are, but like who they feel you should be. And they've assigned you a role in their life. You are like their teddy bear that they're playing with. And when you do something that's outside of that, they get very angry. They'll shut that shit down because they can't tolerate it. So looking at whether or not our models of reality are accurate is actually super important. And you'll know, like, you know, and this isn't just like, I'm not just telling other people, like, this has been me too. But you know when your model isn't accurate, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and then being surprised and upset that result does not occur. So it's really important to be aware of our frameworks for reality, our paradigms. It's also really important to understand whether or not our inner model is accurate enough for us to effectively analyze situations and anticipate accurately like what's gonna occur. Obviously it's, you know, probability. You can't, like, we're not computers, but anyway, so this is where evidence comes in, because that is how we adapt our belief system. That's how we adapt our inner models. That's how we adapt our frameworks and our paradigms. So you know, if you've ever met a person where it does not matter, nothing, what you say doesn't matter, they still believe the same thing, they're not going to change their mind. It could be politically, it could be about an abusive partner. I mean, I gotta be honest, that was me for like many years. You know, people were telling me things and I'm like, yeah, but no, he loves me. Inner model was not accurate, and it didn't matter what outside evidence presented itself. I didn't pay attention to it, and I didn't let it sink in, and I didn't update what was going on in my brain. So I was miserable for a while. Like, really miserable. So being in team debate, basically you get an idea of like primary sources of evidence, secondary sources of evidence, what types of evidence are credible, who is a person that can render an opinion that would be credible and that you can use as evidence. So for example, two people could have the same opinion. One person could be like a doctorate in whatever field it is, and the second person could be Joe Schmo on the internet. They'll have the same, generally speaking, let's say they have the same breakdown of opinion, but one of those opinions is going to be way more informed than the other one. So Joe Schmo, as much as, you know, we might agree with them or not, you know, it doesn't, their opinion is not evidence, whereas that professional opinion would be. That's why in the legal system, if you have a case, you'll bring in an expert witness. The expert witness is somebody who is so knowledgeable and has a lot of credibility that they can render an opinion that stands as evidence. You know, they're bringing to bear all of their education, all of their experience, all of the research and reading and everything that they've ever done. So we're kind of seeing this societally right now. We've got people in information silos. There's a very conservative information silo, and then there's like stuff kind of like outside that bubble. And it's very, so one thing I like to do is I like to go through and I'll compare and contrast news articles. I'll go to like Hunter Biden's emails. All right. Let's take a look at what Fox News is saying, like a Fox News article. Let's take a look at what Breitbart is saying. Let's take a look at what the BBC is saying. Let's take a look at what the New York Times is saying, and critically read them. And I don't know that they teach people how to actually analyze bias in media. But for example, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they, for some reason, the email or the laptop situation came up, and I was like, well, okay, let's go to Fox News. Let's see what this article says. And it was sources in the administration say the director of the FBI is neither confirming nor denying. Ratcliffe has made a statement. More sources unnamed. And so I basically turned to this person and I said, well, okay, so the only thing I can verify, like that I can go outside of this article and verify for myself, is that the FBI director has made a statement saying I'm not making a statement, and that Ratcliffe has made a specific statement. But then, is he a credible source of information? All important things to consider. So one reason why I think this is incredibly important is that there are going to be times in our relationships where we cannot verify one way or the other whether or not something is true and accurate. So for example, a person, we might wonder if a person has cheated on us. Trust and credibility is actually very, very important. So if you have a primary accusation that you cannot prove or disprove, what you then do is you move to the secondary things that you can look at, secondary pieces of evidence. So for example, you can look at someone's emails and see if they've been emailing a person. You can look at someone's phone and see if they've been texting somebody. You can look and see if there are dating apps anywhere. You can maybe look at their schedule and see would their schedule allow for time to see another person? Are they consistently where they said that they have been, etc. But here's the thing. All you can do is prove that you haven't found evidence that they're cheating. You haven't necessarily proven that they haven't cheated. This is the same thing in the legal system. It's the reason why you're not innocent. It's that you're not guilty. It's the lack of evidence doesn't mean that you're found innocent. It just means you haven't been found guilty. Obviously, though, interpersonal relationships are not the legal system. But in the legal system, if you have a primary issue that you cannot determine with 100% accuracy, like let's say a murder, you go and you look at the secondary evidence, particularly evidence you can cross-check. So it's one thing if you have a video of a person committing a murder. That's them, they did it. It's another thing to go, okay, we think this person committed the murder. Their schedule would have allowed for it. There's their DNA around the house. There was blood in their car. You find all these other pieces of evidence to support the idea that this person did or did not commit that murder. With the George Floyd situation, that was on video. It's very clear who each person was. So it didn't become an issue of evidence. It became an issue of whether or not, it was intentional, what kind of qualified immunity the police may have. There were other issues that then became at play. But because the primary core issue was so cut and dry, the kneeling on the neck and then death, on video, everybody's identified. The questions are not... We don't get into conspiracy theory territory on stuff like that. Anyway, so if you find yourself in a situation where you are beginning to question whether or not your interpretation of things is accurate, if your beliefs are accurate, if you're taking in the right information, basically the most important thing to look at is, are my conclusions accurate to reality? Is what I expect to happen what's happening? Now, obviously, once or twice, you can't, we're not prophets or seers or anything. So, you know, it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, but like in general, does what you expect to happen occur? Does your assessment of people turn out to be true or borne out over time? That's how you can tell if you have an accurate model of reality, if you have an accurate belief system and structure and paradigm, and probably whether or not you pay attention to credible evidence and update your models so that you're not dealing with a static model of reality or a static model of another person, but you're updating it as you go. Anyway, I hope this makes sense. I'll talk to you next time.